Hello and welcome to Nintendo Voice, your voice for everything Nintendo. This is episode 126, recorded on the 7th of February 2018. My name's Lewis Pugh, and joining me to talk Nintendo, we have Harrison Milfeld.
Hey everybody, and apologies about my look and my voice right now. For people on the video feed right now, you're seeing I'm just kind of still in my PJs, and my voice is not very good at the moment because I'm sick at the moment. But we've and gosh darn it, I was going to still be on the show to talk about today's news, so I'm gonna make it through it, and hopefully you're proud of it.
No, you certainly are a trooper. We don't have a Colin in today. He has some very early work starts this week, so he can't make it, which is a shame. But we'll catch up with him next week. But we do have lots of juicy news to go through, which is the best type of news, of course. But before we've got that, we do have some what we've been playing. A couple of new games. Well, games which are new to us, which is, I guess, not always the case, but often is the case. I would like to start with yourself, Harrison, if you don't mind.
Sure, yes. Yeah, go ahead. I will present myself. I will present myself with my what we've been playing. Finally, something of a. But the game I'm playing right now is actually another game I'm reviewing for Pure Nintendo, and it's called Super One More Jump, and it's a puzzle platform type of it's a 2D puzzle platform type of game, and where you control you control a sprite which is on auto run, and you just maneuver it through a 2D plane of stages, whatever stages, and just to one end goal. Simple as that.
Okay.
And of course, as each of these stages kind of get more and more progressively hard, whatever, you'll probably it depends. Like, I should have sent you some footage of this probably earlier, because originally this was on iOS, but I guess Super is basically newer in the title because of what's being enhanced for the Switch version, I guess. I'm assuming, but yeah, you go through each of these levels where obviously there's different obstacles, whatever, and of course you don't want to, when your sprite is on auto run, you don't want to make sure that your sprite kind of runs off the end, as in not fall, but as in hit the edge, because you want to, hence the name One More Jump, is that you think it's over. It's like, okay, there's still more to kind of go in in these stages. So it's essentially avoiding typical things like spikes, moving platforms, and of course the edges of these sides.
Okay.
But also throughout the stages, you have 3 gems to collect, which are optional, but of course needed to kind of get through and unlock more stages and unlock more, and just more unlockables. But the thing I really like a little bit about this is that this comes in different graphical styles, as in this was, I did not know for a while that the developer here took to Twitter to ask artists to actually make designs for these levels, not like design the levels themselves, but the aesthetics of them. So because when I was looking at the homepage for the review, I kept noticing all these Twitter profiles, thinking like, well, what does they do with these Twitter profiles are next to them? And turns out those were the people who were making these stages. So
okay. How is that kind of dished out? Is it like they are like you jump from one world to the next, or do you just jump from like a stage design which looks like one thing to something completely different?
No, like you could play the entire game with one style and just go to the options menu and just switch it like that. Yeah, that's what it was, because I think I was about halfway through the game, and I was just kind of tooling around the settings, and I was like, okay. And this was after I was collecting all these different gems in the stages. Of course, this helps unlock most of these. And I was like, okay, I'll go with this one. And some are very simplified, and some have a little bit more homage to 8 and 16-bit titles, for instance. So, but there's and that's one thing kind of gives a bit of replayability, is that you can probably go through it again when you're playing a certain play style that actually fits your need. So, but I mean, I've had a lot of fun with this. I mean, it's super hard too when it comes to things like this. I mean, of course, this game came out around the same time as Celeste, so I'm kind of waiting on that right now, because I'm like, I need to kind of spread myself out when it comes to super hard platformers. And
yeah, you might need a break before you jump into that one.
Yeah, I mean, no, there were times in here where at least it'll show me how many times I've failed in a stage, and I think there's at least 57 times in one particular one, and I just kept going, and it wasn't because I couldn't get to the end of the level. It's because I wanted to be the completionist in me and get every single gem. So
but I think that little bit where it says like how many times you died on the stage. You know, that makes me immediately think of Super Meat Boy. It's not the only game by any means to do that, but do you get other vibes of that game from this, or?
No. It's good that you actually said that. I think this draws a lot of good influence from it, aside from the meat aesthetic. So, but no, there's a lot that game owes to. But I think the thing that really kind of makes it stand out, though, is once you get to later levels, is that because there'd be there'd be sections where you stop on your auto run, and then you have to wait, and then there's these death traps and stuff, whatever, that you have to just time. It's a simple one button control scheme, as I must say, but you just got to get your timing down really right when you're putting on a lot of these jumps and stuff. And there are lots of moments where I'm thinking like, oh, I'm near the end, but I'm like, and then it just catches me off guard, and then gravity kind of takes over, where it's like you get to the end of one platform, and then you just make the jump. Where am I supposed to go? And then you just have that split second to just like hit the jump, hit again, and then you go into a bit of a I want to say almost like a cul-de-sac kind of thing, whatever, of these platforms. And once you get in, it's just like I'm just hitting the A button, just going like don't die. So, but again, like I said, every time I died, I was like I had to continue. I have to continue with this, and I wasn't so frustrated with it. But
and does it snap you straight back to the beginning, like with no loading time? Sort of thing?
Yes, it does. It does. But these are fairly short levels, but aside from a few, so that does get a little annoying on there. I do really wish that the gems that you've collected already would stay that way, because when you die and then you realize at the end, it's like it comes to the point like I've already been near the end, and I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it just for that one gem. I just don't want to. So, my only negative, though, like big negative to this one, is the music, which it's competently composed, but I think that you'll be wanting to listen to something else, like whether it's a podcast or even your own music, because it just seems like there's just it's just an external loop of something to me. And I feel like when you're dying over 36 times, it drives you to the point of insanity. You're like, that's it. I got to listen to something else. So
yeah. I always try and find any good opportunity to recommend a good podcast.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you want to try out Super One More Jump, and every new listener out there, listen to us. I trust you. You will get through each of the stages a little bit easier. Yeah. Maybe I may distract you too much. Who knows? So, but yeah,
One More Jump and never stop listening. Doesn't quite work the same. But my big important question: you say it's essentially a one button game with you jump.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a wall jump? In addition to a regular jump.
You technically, I mean, as here's basically the auto run to something like this. I'm demonstrating on here. So as it's being run, like say jump, 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 jump. And I know that doesn't really, in audio form, I'm not really doing that well justice. Is that you have these platforms like, yeah, you're essentially wall jumping. It's a one button mechanic that it's that you use the environments to your own advantage. You use the walls and everything else to the advantage. That's what you can.
I think from what I got from the visual cues there, like there's essentially that is a wall jump.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be a traditional one, but yeah, if you jump and you're touching the wall, you will do another jump, essentially.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And it's like $7, I think, on the eShop here in the States, so it's nothing too ridiculous as far as price. And yeah, I recommend that. I really do. I'm gonna give it like a preview of my score. I give it like an 8. I give it 8 out of 10.
Wow, that's a pretty damn high score.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, probably the final question, have you been playing on both TV and the Switch screen, or just one or the other?
Both, but it works really well in handheld as well. But I guess the reason why I didn't want to put on I always played handheld modes because again it's easier to just listen to podcasts and everything else when I had the volume down.
Indeed. Cool.
So,
right,
but yeah, what have you been playing though?
I've been playing something which I've been meaning to pick up for quite some time, and I had a good enough excuse, which was last month. I had my birthday, so I had some vouchers and some other things, and I spent one of them on Doom for the Switch.
Ooh!
And so I've been a big fan of Doom, as in the franchise, for quite some time. I mean, more so 1 and 2. Although I did enjoy 3. And
I was about to ask if you did play 3.
I did. I never completed 3. because it's not quite the same game really. It's a lot more slower of a game, which is what kind of brings me on to Doom for the Switch. So essentially, last year's Doom for Xbox One and PS4. It's available on the Switch. It came out last year. So actually, I guess it was 2016 version of Doom, which came out last year and late last year on the Switch. And so I've been playing a fair bit of it, and I am very impressed. It definitely gives me the same sort of feelings that I remember from playing the original Doom, which is quite odd, really, because going back to Doom, it is a surprisingly fast game, especially for like one of the very first-person shooters out there. You go back to Doom today, and it's faster than most of the modern first-person shooters. And that's where new Doom comes in, because it is equally fast. And that's kind of like the main. It sounds odd because I think a lot of people go with the main draw of Doom, or the main thing it's going to hit you with is the shocking violence, and there is a lot of that in there. But I think the big important thing is just how fast you can spin on a dime. It does feel like a PC shooter in that sense. You can just whip the camera around and it feels good. And I've not played this game in 60 frames on a different system, because I've not played on a different system, but it works very well in 30. It just keeps up with that speed, and it doesn't feel like you're missing out on frames, as it were. It feels good, which is great. I was a little bit worried just hearing reactions from it and hearing the differences and hearing how it hinged so much on the 60 frame gameplay. I think it does very well on the Switch version, and it really is cool. It's good how it incorporates some of the traditional elements of Doom, like you do have health packs and such, and you don't have regenerating health. However, it does modernize that system, and it encourages you to do the old-fashioned kind of get in the face of your demons with a big shotgun and blast them up by
as is tradition.
Of course, and if you're not aware that's how you should be playing the game, it will reward you by, if you get up close and personal, and they will and deal an attack as such, you'll get health packs out of them, opposed to if you're playing it safe and just shooting things from a distance, you won't get that bonus. And so it does encourage you just kind of getting up into the action. And that's how you play this game, opposed to a lot of first-person shooters. You don't hide and cover around corners in this game and just pop out and take shots, which you do in 9 out of 10 first-person shooters nowadays. It's all about keeping on your feet, never stop moving, shooting everything in sight, spinning around, getting used to just kind of locking your aim on your targets. And it also does have a lot of movement to it. It does hinge quite a lot on jumping and platforming, and it feels quite good, really, because not only does the camera zip round fast, but the character moves. He runs around you would in the old games. So you don't have a run button because you're always running, and in that sense, you can do big jumps. And it feels really good. And you can also, if you're not going to quite make it, your character will grab onto the ledge and pull himself up. And it feels very good in that sense. And what I was kind of surprised about, I heard certain bits about the game, but I wasn't aware that it had an upgrade system for all your weapons. And they can have secondary abilities, and you can level them up. And at first, when the little screen popped up and it's this is something you can do now, I was like, oh dear. I think this, I like the idea of it kind of staying traditional and in celebrating those its heritage in that sense. But it works. It's simplified. It doesn't drag things down, and you only need to use it when you want to, sort of thing. So it's for perks and bonuses, but I don't believe there's any other time it's going to be stopping you from going further because you've not put enough points into your shotgun, sort of thing. And it's very simple. You'll spend a point to do this action. There's not like this big giant skill tree which appears, and you're not getting experience.
I would say it simplifies you to a point where it's deep enough, but it doesn't but it doesn't oversimplify it so much, but it doesn't overburden yourself into anything. And this is one of another radar, and I have a PS4 now, and I was originally wanting to pick this up on the cheap just to kind of get the full experience of 60 frames per second. But still, the team that ported this over, Panic Button, which of course has been busy as of late, they're also going to be doing Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, like the port job of that one for the Switch. And this one, it's like, I'm amazed. Again, I'm amazed when we first talked a little bit briefly at the end of the last year, is that it truly is amazing to see what they've done on there. I know it looks a little bit less different, like you can tell the difference when you're on the screen, but on the handheld, you're just like, this is impressive.
Yeah, I've played it on both. It's incredible on the handheld. There's nothing quite like it. There's not really much to compare it to. Like if you've got Doom running on your Switch as an in-portable mode, and then you pull out, I don't know, like a Vita or a smartphone or some, you're not going to get anything close to that sort of graphic fidelity. However, oddly, you put it on the TV and it's going to be, the least graphical version of this game. It's the weakest option in that sense, but it's still fun. And it's not compromised in some, there's compromises made at how you do a port. But in terms of level design, the structural stuff, it is of the same game, the same maps, the same characters, the same AI, all the same, not all the same, but most of the same actual graphical techniques. It is just on a lower resolution and a lower frame rate. However, it kind of works quite well. I think it's there's a lot of like blur effects and motion effects in this game, and I think that helps. I'm not sure what they do, but I'm not directly comparing this to any versions, but I think it works quite well, and I'm just surprised at how they've taken this game, they've ported it down to this weaker system, and yet it's a game which focuses not just on like graphical fidelity, but the speed of the game, and that feels like that theme has stayed intact, which I think is very impressive.
No, you're right about something like that, and to me, it is truly a testament for what this is on the Switch. And even if you actually, it won't have all the necessarily bells and whistles graphically to what you see like on a high-end PC, but just like you said, when you see something on this, especially a little like a handheld, like a hybrid handheld device like this, it has to be seen. You're like, this is running on inferior hardware right now, and and I think there's only like one moment where I think like there's a sound kind of cuts out. I think it's like during one segment of the game. I can't particularly put my my finger on it, but that's the only problem they probably saw with it. But I think that might have been patched out. So
quite possibly, there has been some updates, as it were. I'm definitely not on version 1.0.
No, I do want to ask though, how does it handle as a first-person shooter on in handheld mode? Because I think that was one thing that really a lot of people were hesitant a bit.
It actually works surprisingly well, and I would be interested to see what the default like controller layout is for the other games. But a lot of your main action stuff is actually the right analog stick. Like I'm not talking about shooting, but like basically other things, like interacting with things. And that saves you from having to move your thumb, from the stick to the buttons, which is kind of the problem with my problem with the Joy-Con layout in that sense. It's not as simple to move your thumb between the stick and the buttons on the right hand side, opposed to a normal controller where it's angled and it's easier to do so. And so in that sense, it works surprisingly well. And it takes a little while to get used to just how fast the game is, because it would, in theory, be easier to control a slower moving game when you've got like the smaller buttons and such. But it didn't take me too long, and I was actually playing it not too differently to how I was on the TV to how I was on the small screen. And it just makes it all seem more impressive. That's a very psychological thing there. But no, I really don't have any problems. I mean, some games I would play on a smaller device and go, might just wait till I get onto the big screen with the big controller to play this more. But no, it works genuinely well on both. It's quite impressive.
No, and again, the fact that it does work right now it's refreshing. No, I mean, it gives hope for third-party games coming here, whatever. I mean, whether it's older ports of games from like, the early onset of like the PS4, Xbox One, or late 360 or PS3 era. So that at least offers hope, knowing these things can work on here. It's just a matter of like, I wouldn't say cutting so many corners, but just cutting it quite close.
Oh, definitely. And like, it really is. It is a skill. It is an art to port a game to a very different type of system, especially something which is lower powered than originally intended for what the game was designed. And Panic Buttons has done a really good job on Doom. I'm really interested to see how the Wolfenstein 2 port goes, because it looks a lot more demanding in that sense. You've got a lot more scenes with like highly detailed humans interacting with each other. It seems like it's going to be harder to fudge it. Whereas in Doom, I feel you can, because it's just this like manic, like demonic, just craziness going on, like blasting things with shotguns and explosions and everything happening. I feel like you can get away with like masking some bits just because it's so frantic. But when you've got these like kind of cool, calm, collected scenes where like these like almost cool cat organization are like doing some very like nicely animated scene, and the camera's getting like close up into people's faces and such. That's a very different test of technical ability to what Doom's doing. And it's also running on a newer version of the id engine, id Tech, which, from what I've heard on the PC side, is more demanding in itself. So I'm very interested, like just on the curiosity level for one, and the other thing in terms of that's a game I would like to play. Although I've not played any of the modern Wolfenstein games, and it is a very story-heavy game, so that's going to be a conundrum in itself. Whether like that's actually a good point to jump into, but I guess I could do that research now because that game is out in the wild. But yeah, I might have to play the previous one before I jump in, even if it does impress me.
But yeah, I know. I definitely need to actually check this out. I do really, probably when it's on sale or something like that. I know it was kind of recently, but I missed out on it. So once I fit time in there, I think I may want to try it out.
That's cool. Yeah. What I'd say is, if you were a fan of those original Doom games, I think you will really enjoy this one. It does somehow capture that vibe, despite it being, it looks different, it feels different technically in that sense, but it just kind of captures that mood. Like just from everything from the music, which is very different music, because it's been a long time since those original games. It's
hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, it does that mood really well, and it's like I think from an outside perspective, they will look into this game and go, "Oh, that's a very like kind of dark, grungy game, or like depressing-y sort of game." But I think it's the sort of game that if you can just not take it seriously, and the game doesn't take itself seriously, it's actually a game which wants to put a smile on your face, just wants you to run around and have fun with a shotgun. And it's okay because you're fighting demons. You're not fighting like people or with like complex backgrounds and so on. It's just, these are demons from hell and they need to be removed, and you've got the job to do it. And
I like the way you're thinking on this one, Lewis. It's like, I have a shotgun right now, and they just, what? I need to clean things up right now.
Exactly. It's a simple story. Your job is clear, and there's no gray area here. It's the demons must go away. They are demons. They are literally from hell. They need to be removed. Here's some very powerful machinery to help you deal with it, and some cool music to go along with it. But yeah, also something I've not tried yet, but does intrigue me is there's an arcade mode. And
do explain.
Yeah, so it looks like you replay stages, and you're going to have, I imagine, some sort of waves of enemies. But from what I've seen, you actually get like points are coming out of them while you're taking them down. So I imagine it is like you play for high scores until you die, essentially. But from what I've played so far, it looks like this is going to be a good game engine for that. So yeah, I'm going to beat the game first, and then when I'm itching to play a bit more, I can just jump into arcade mode, opposed to just like debating whether I should start the game again or not from scratch. So yeah, it's good to have it there. And there's also the online versus mode as such. It doesn't necessarily grab me, but it's good to know it's there. It'd be fun to try out at some point. But yeah, that's not why I jump into Doom for.
It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that covers what we've been playing this week. You don't have any other sneaky games you want to sneak in there?
No, I haven't been picking up Xenoblade in a while. So, I mean, like I said, I am, aside from my other stuff from Pure Nintendo right now, I am actually in the midst of writing a cover story. And it's, of course, Colin's favorite game that he likes, and that's Detective Pikachu. So, yeah, but that's all I can say right now. It's just a full-on little preview. But not that I own, not to have it. It's just a write-up and everything. So, Colin, if you're listening right now, a copy's coming straight for you soon.
Yeah, definitely something to look forward to, that one. Okay, let's move from what we've been playing and into the Nintendo news. And all the news articles today come from the most recent financial briefing from Nintendo, which doesn't sound very fun from the face of it, but we do have some cool announcements.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, yeah, from a casual standpoint, it doesn't sound very cool to look at, or if you're not way into Nintendo and everything like that. But usually, this time around the year is where we're just looking back on Nintendo sales information, or like what they've done the past fiscal year, and in the times there's little small surprises sprinkled in there. And that's not to say this is like some mini direct or like stealth direct out there. I mean, this is usually the case where we kind of get some clarification on things like our thing, like this is what our release schedule or tentative release schedule is for the coming year. And it's just all fun speculative stuff, because of course this is just a matter of like pleasing shareholders, the people who Nintendo needs to actually make happy and for making money for, aside from but yeah, there was surprisingly a lot of good stuff on here, and most of the stuff that's coming up here, aside from following other journalists covering this event, Nintendo of America was actually tweeted all this stuff out.
Yeah, that is kind of refreshing as well, because usually it is a matter of, I mean, all that stuff like Nintendo speaks about, but they don't necessarily go to their usual like public channel and here's the actual announcement opposed to someone translating it for you. So yeah, the first thing we have on our list, at least, not necessarily in the order they were announced, we have Mario Kart Tour, which is a Mario Kart game coming to mobiles for iOS and Android, we can only assume. And it's coming out this fiscal year, or I guess next.
Which is a technical term for, what is that? I'm reading here, April to March, like April of this year to March of 2019. March.
That's right, yeah. So I imagine it will probably be next year it actually releases with such a wide window as such. But then again, context should be given here. The announcement was at a financial briefing. So I guess it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be right at the end of that date. That's just how they give the dates. So, yeah, maybe it won't even be that far away. I mean, technically, it might not be. But there's a lot of room for speculation here, because all we know of the facts is that big release window, the fact it's called Mario Kart Tour, and that's about it, really.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you reckon this will be, Harrison? Do you think this will look like a traditional Mario Kart game, and you use it like tilt controls?
That's different. No, and that's the first thing that kind of came to my mind is like, tilt controls feel like this is with the use of a smartphone, I think is probably a given on here, but it's a matter of like what this will look like, but what will be controlled. I mean, like, is this going to be, I don't know, like, I wouldn't say an endless runner Mario Kart game, but that's where I kind of get to. Whatever, is it just gonna be an endless runner type of game, or is it gonna be into some of the same ways of like being what they did with Super Mario Run? That's where I'm kind of getting at. But also, how is it they're probably going to maybe factor in, who knows, microtransactions to this? Is this going to be a free-to-play game, or is it just going to have like that set price that Super Mario Run had with the promise of like, hey, DLC is coming, free of charge? Well, unless I'm messing up my messaging there.
No, they've not said either way. So it's a very good point. Like, because that is the approach they did for Super Mario Run is it was a free download, and you played the first 3 or 4 stages, and then you basically were given the option to buy the rest of the game.
Okay.
And so it could be slightly do something similar Mario Kart Tour, but they did. I believe they have announced, or they did talk about how they weren't as positive with how much revenue Mario Run was making than what they were expecting. So they might go with a different strategy there. So they might go with the more microtransactions, so you buy things bit by bit. And it could be that you are given like a cup and you buy all the other cups individually, or you can buy them in a big pack as a different option as well. But they could also, I guess, go for something more with the timer systems. It's not the sort of angle I want them to go in, but that seems to be the most profitable thing out there. That or the sort of gotcha machines where maybe you have all your kart parts and you get them through that. But yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind too much if they did have those small transactions, but they also did the thing where I think they did in some 3DS games, oddly, where there's basically, if you spend like a big amount, you basically unlock everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a pass at that point. I'm not sure they would necessarily do that on mobile. Yeah, but I'm not entirely sure. I imagine the actual game would look like Mario Kart in the sense like the camera's behind you, you're driving through, and you are doing the tilt controls and such. Because you can basically do that with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. If you turn on those accessibility modes, so you can have it auto accelerate, you can have it steering through motion control, and you've also got smart steering where it keeps you on the track as well. And so you can actually play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe by taking both the Joy-Cons out and just holding the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really advertised as something you can do, but you can set up so you can do it. And so you can do that at home as a little example what it might or what it could be like. But yeah, the big question for me is how they're going to monetize this thing. There's lots of options.
Oh no, there's tons of it. And again, all we know as far as speculative right now is just a name that we just have a name and a schedule and just a release window. So it'll be fun to figure this whole thing out. But again, I think we'll be essentially I think we'll be surprised by what the first look we get.
Yeah, and my kind of prediction on this is it's going to be a very good looking mobile game.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing it out there, I reckon it will look like surprisingly close to like the Mario Kart 8 we have already, just on your phone. Now, in terms of like the actual feature set and the controls and everything else, that's going to be a different matter. But yeah, I reckon it's going to be a very good looking mobile game because it might even be using a similar engine. They just seem to be able to make that look great without necessarily having a huge amount of horsepower behind it already. So I reckon they'll be able to do wonders on that side as well. But yeah, whether it's going to make a lot of money, like,
yeah,
you would imagine it would, unless they mess it up.
Well, I mean, out of their entire mobile projects right now, I think it's Fire Emblem Fire Emblem Heroes has been making them pretty decent amount of money.
Yeah, like on the face, like if you can take Pokemon Go out of the question because it's not a DNA game, as it were. Like that's the one which seemed to make sense to me, as that one would be making the money, just how it's set up. Like you buy the orbs to get the heroes, and there's like hundreds of heroes, and loads of them are based on like popular characters that people would want to get hold of, and they're useful in the game itself. And it's got that constant loop. Like you'd always ideally like to be getting things out of that thing which you need to spend money for. Whereas like games like Mario Run, all right, you spend your money, you're done. And Animal Crossing seems to be too generous. Maybe it changes when you play it so much, but I feel most people don't. But yeah, like, all right, it's going to take me a couple of hours for those fruits to grow back on that tree. That's fine. It's Animal Crossing. So yeah, I mean, that's always the way with mobile. Oddly, like it does seem to be this weird balance between game design and like a design for charging customers. It is a weird system they got to get through. But I'm thinking of all companies, Nintendo will eventually find something sensible, some sensible balance between the two things.
Yeah, they'll get the point to it, whatever. But again, it's been a bit of I would say a rocky start, but there's definitely been a lot of things to actually kind of question and whatnot. I mean, with the death of Miitomo coming at the end, it's just experimentation. But also with like their main properties here, it's just a matter of like taking what you learned from Super Mario Run and why it was reviewed well. It just seemed like so many people were just turned off by that that $10 price.
Yeah, that's a weird one in itself because you get some people turned off straight away. And for the people who jump in, you've almost undercharged them because other mobile games will try and get more money out of you eventually. Whereas Super Mario Run, how it's like, nope, you've got everything now. No matter how much we support this game going forwards, you've given us everything we've asked for. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of oddly the good thing about Nintendo's approach so far is that they're being extra careful, at least from my perspective. And so, yeah, let's see them experiment. But it seems like they're erring on the side of caution. They don't want to upset people by putting up like a ridiculous system and getting people riled up and, getting the pitchforks out. Because we've not really seen that side of the argument yet, I don't think, on mobile side with Nintendo going, oh, they are ridiculously costly. There's no point playing with them.
No, you're right. No, I agree.
Which a lot of mobile games out there are. That's like the problem. However, talking about charging and online infrastructures, kind of, we have news about the Switch's premium online service.
It's a good segue.
We knew it was coming this year after being delayed for late last year. However, we now have not an exact date, but we have a launch month. We have a launch window, which is September. We don't really have any more extra details about the service. They've kind of reconfirmed what we already know mostly.
Yeah, and this game has been, or not this game, but this service has been put off like now twice. Like originally we were supposed to get in the fall of 2017, and then that was delayed into 2018. And like I really assumed it would be here probably before March or even springtime. And now we have a definite, release month.
Yeah.
And lots of things to ask about this, whatever, like, has Nintendo's like delay of this showing that they want to get this infrastructure right, even though, let's just admit right at the gate, it's not going to be as good as PSN or what Live has on there. Well, I assume better than PSN knowing it's prone to hacking and such, but I kid. So it's
cassettes, if you ignore the hack part.
Yeah. The thing that's going for it though, it's going to be extremely affordable. So the most I think for a full year is gonna be like $20, I think. So that's a steal. Yeah. But I don't know, like all we kind of know from it right now is that for the subscription service, obviously you're gonna play all your online games for with the service, but also you'll be given virtual console titles once a month with online capabilities. Now, it makes me think though, for this in September. And knowing that we don't know a lot what's going on in 2018, probably even in the later months at this point, you would have to think that Nintendo is going to either in that month or even in November launch a big online game to kind of push the service out.
Yeah, I think the same month for you a big online game.
Yeah, or something smaller, or something like that. Something to keep their time. Maybe they revamp the whole virtual console service system, and that will keep you busy for like the month or so. I'm like, hey, this is how it is, and then I don't know, a complete version of Smash Brothers from Wii U. It launches in November, because I feel like that would be the one flagship title to kind of push the whole thing out. And when I was listening to a couple podcasts, people were arguing like, well, what about Splatoon 2? I mean, that still's got some legs. Like, that's not to say Splatoon doesn't have a very good, like, online presence there. And I would say that's more so than ARMS right now, even though there's a few competitive players keeping it afloat. But I think if you had to choose, you want Smash or something bigger probably to get this thing out the window. And this is, and it's, I don't think if you charge people and you just keep with Splatoon as your profile title, are people going to pay for that, really? I mean, I know at $20 it's cheap, but still those casual people are like, nope, I'm not going to get on here. Like, I mean, but those pro players will. So I'm just saying that a big title of something like Smash's magnitude would be good to kind of push this whole thing out. Would you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. In fact, I think I'm leaning even more in that direction. I think like the same day the service goes up, a big online game is launched, and they deliberately push those things together. And like, I mean, you don't obviously need one for the other, but I think it will be marketed in such a way like Nintendo's online service is here, and also this big game is here, and just get the message out that way. It might be Smash, it might be something else entirely, but yeah, I do think we're going to see a very online focused game coming out. It might even be something like Mario Maker 2. Might not the most obvious thing I'd go with, but it's possible. Something with, if they, it's an online infrastructure type game, and so maybe if they pull the stocks out for that one, and you can have a much better like searching database for courses, or maybe you can even like collaborate with levels at the same time together. If they really push that angle, I reckon maybe even Mario Maker 2 could do it. But yeah, I think something with a big online focus is coming out the same day as a service. But yeah, I think they're hitting a good price point. Obviously, it's going to be good to know more details about this. The games you get with it, the not virtual console games with online features, and the fact that you get them for the month and then you don't have them for the month. And that just raises questions of, how else do I get them afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Can I buy them from a certain dedicated area of the store with other retro titles? There's some questions there. So yeah, that thing might be tied entirely with the virtual console, and this premium service is basically just gives you benefits for that area, opposed to being the service in itself. Or how big is that catalog? How small is that catalog?
Mm-hmm.
I hope we find out details sooner rather than later. Oddly, I don't think it's going to necessarily be like an E3 announcement. I reckon it was just going to be its own direct at some point. And so it's probably just going to be quite near the time, frustratingly. They'll just drop the news and it will come out the month afterwards or something. Because apart from like that game, which I'm thinking is tied with it, they don't really need to give any notice in that side. I think like the least notice is the better, because they're basically taking away the free service and making it paid.
Wait, are you trying to enable the fact that they should stealth announce Smash, where it's like, hey, it's available the next day? Or
no, like that's the only thing which is making me kind of back away from the whole traditionally, I don't think online service is something that they want to talk about during an E3 conference. And they want to talk about the games. And like they'll have like a separate direct and talk about it. But that kind of goes a little bit against my, they're going to tie a big game with it. But it could just be that, say, during E3, they have this big game and they don't actually put a concrete date on it. Or maybe they do put a concrete date on it, but we don't have also that matchup yet. And it's just, we find out when we get near that date, oh, it's also going to be the date when they put the online service up. And maybe you get like a free month when you buy the game or something.
Which, yeah, as is, I could probably see with something like that. And no, people going in expecting them probably to talk about this E3. Again, I could be eating my own words if they do, but it could be a small little direct they talk about, or it could just be a full-fledged little, hey, here's press release, this is what it's going to entail. Or they could just update the website and be like, it just got updated. What's the deal here? So, and yeah, it's But I think when we get into it, it is a given that they need to actually release a big name title for this to kind of push it out. And whether or not what this entails to it, it's very much odd. And who knows what they could probably do with it. Hopefully they actually can finally improve the Switch Online app, because please, it's just, woof, that's all I can say.
I think that's coming. I don't think they've actually explicitly said so, but the way I look at the app currently, and it might be quite telling if this isn't the case, but like this is the beta. And that's why it's free. That's why they're not charging for it yet, because it's not ready yet. It literally isn't finished yet. And so before it becomes paid, or like at the time, then it's going to transform into something much more fully featured. And that's the justification of why you're paying now. But yeah, this is just a little in-between thing. So you don't have absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Until they great together.
Even though if that something is kind of just, yeah, like it's something to a point you're like, well, this is, I won't say confusing, but stupid, but still, I mean, I don't know, like for everybody in here, we're finally using Discord to actually do our meetings, and won't say our meetings, but basically our chats and stuff, but also to do like online gaming events that we're trying to do as well. But like I said, if all else fails, we have Discord.
Exactly. There's definitely options out there. Let's jump to our next bit of news coming out of this, which is the much rumored Super Mario movie. The animated Super Mario movie has been confirmed. It is happening. It is a thing. And so this is happening with Illumination, the creators of, or the studio, I should say, behind Despicable Me and the Minions movie, as well as others. And we don't really have much more details beyond this yet. Miyamoto is going to be co-producing it. And yeah, it's real. It's happening. We're getting a second Mario movie. What do you think, Harrison?
Well, the fact that it's animated, I'm more interested to see how it goes out there. And I know once this was, even when it was rumored and now it's been officially confirmed, there's been a bit of I would say, a vocal minority out there that really don't want to see Illumination out there, because I don't know, they I wouldn't say they feel like a safe animation studio, but they feel like that some of their products out there have not been up to snuff a little bit. I mean, I liked Despicable Me 1 and 2, was not a fan of Minions. I still have not seen Sing, which I heard was actually pretty decent. I did not really enjoy the Lorax, which was their adaptation of the Dr. Seuss story, because I felt like it just went way beyond the fact of like what that children's book entailed and its messaging, and just it was like things in there were supposed to be left ambiguous, and they're like, oh no, we're gonna throw this whole thing to make it kids fodder. And they're doing also I think a Grinch origin story or something like that. I want to say, but that comes out this fall. Here, I understand why they're actually dealing with doing the studio, because of course Universal is helping them with their theme park ideas, and it does make sense because Illumination is owned by Universal, which is also owned by Comcast. But I do like that Miyamoto is actually in charge of, well, I mean, he's going to help produce whatever. And because if we remind ourselves, he was helping out with those Pikmin shorts as well. And
yeah, I think he directed those Pikmin shorts.
And he also helped out with the Star Fox anime, like the Battle Begins. And probably during the whole storyboards, when people are actually going to be putting this whole thing together, he's gonna probably be saying like, hey, should Mario be doing this, should we be doing this, or should we do this as character? And hopefully they able to give him enough, the people in the story are enough room to kind of flesh Mario out, because overall, how do you take this story? And I know we briefly touched about it back when this was rumored in the Wall Street Journal report late last year, do you think it's best that they just go with the simple story, or do you think they just do a whole meta narrative where it's kind of, you're aware this is a game, but also Mario? Like, I don't know.
I don't think they can play it simple for this, because I think it's just too expected. It's too known. I think if the story is literally that Princess Peach gets captured, and during the feature length, that Mario goes through, trials and tribulations, and then eventually save Princess Peach from Bowser, I don't think that's going to make a very entertaining or kind of satisfying film at the end of it. They need twists and turns. They need to subvert it or do something different. Maybe even the fact that they've already started doing this in their own games, like how Odyssey begins with a Mario Bowser fight, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that could be a good starting point. Maybe they just do something completely different. But yeah, I don't think they can do Mario going through the Mushroom Kingdom and eventually beating Bowser and rescuing Peach, unless they do subvert it, which they could do, and so ultimately those things do happen. But
yeah, you're right about subverting, just subverting the whole atmosphere or the themes of what we get with this. And I don't know. And one thing you got to ask, like, who do you get to voice Mario? Do you just get Charles Martinet to actually just do, like, aside from "It's me, Mario," just going to full on sentences? You're like, does this work? And I mean, you know that they're going to get some high end voice talent for this. And
yeah, I would hope we will get Charles Martinet, because it just seems like it would be the perfect fit, because this is an animated film still. Mario's an animated character. I don't really see the difference here. Like, unless they are going to go with a much more vocal Mario than they have before, which they could do. And if they do, maybe it makes sense to change up the voice actor, because he is going to have a different voice. Essentially, he's going to, if he does, going to speak long form, have conversations. But if not, I say stick with Charles. And I actually think Illumination is a good studio for that, because
or a plot twist, they don't allow him to talk.
Oh, sure, but I mean, even then, you need the grunts and the noises and such. You can't be literally silent. Like, even like you just jumping around and moving, you need little noises. At that point, Charles is perfect anyway.
I'm getting essentially this idea for this movie is just going to be one 90-minute long like explanation of like, oh wow, they're really going to do the whole Mario and the castle, like Mario and Peaches and Bowser's castle thing, but it's just World 1-1. That's it. It's just a
cinematic retelling of like someone actually playing a Mario game, just like from dynamic camera angles and such. But it's just Mario jumping over obstacles and stomping on Goombas.
And that could be there too. Like, okay, and they could maybe do something the same route as like what they did with Wreck-It Ralph, and like how it's just like within the game itself. So I would really like to do it. But I mean, again, getting back to the point is that I know people were very upset that Illumination was doing this, whatever. I think they're capable of doing a Mario movie in this case. But I mean, yeah, the dream was like, oh, Pixar or Disney's new revitalized in animation studios, or that was the dream for some. But Illumination it's fine. I mean, they're no scrubs, but they're able to do something like this, and they've made money, and of course that's what drew either Universal or Nintendo to each other. But I will say though, in the future, Nintendo, get Leica Animation, the stop motion people, for a Zelda movie. I would adore that. Or I don't know. That's my whole dream for it.
That's cool.
I don't know. Or and this is a very big pipe dream. A Legend of Zelda film done by Studio Ghibli, and there's plenty of fan projects out there with fakes and stuff, and it's just like, why isn't this real?
Yeah, that seems to just go hand in hand with what they do with Breath of the Wild, that sort of art style as well. Obviously, one influences the other, as it were. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, I don't really have any big concerns about Illumination handling this project, which is, I guess, good for me. Like, I've seen a bit of the Minions film. I've not seen the full thing. And purely from the aspect that they do seem to tell a narrative with a bunch of characters who don't actually speak, I think that's a good quality to have, just from that aspect alone, of handling a bunch of Mario characters. Because unless you're going to start changing their character completely, and I wouldn't necessarily be against it for a feature film, but it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system. Like, these guys seem to have a bit of experience in that area. If you want to tell a story and your main cast of characters aren't actually going to be talking for a lot, they've got a bit of experience there. But that doesn't necessarily mean, like, Minions was Minions. It was a film focused for kids. And I think for that, I think it was, I'm no expert on this matter, but I think it did quite well in that sense. And I guess that's the other thing we need to think of, is who the audience actually is for this Mario film.
Ooh.
This could be a purely kids film. It could be a film for everybody, but we don't actually know yet because we don't really have that experience to look at. Like, this is their first endeavor of this type of thing, so we don't know. Like, they've not set expectations yet.
Mhm.
We're gonna have to wait to see what that first little teaser trailer is, or some sort of statement of what or how the production's going, or what it actually is. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, but no, you were right.
All right, let's jump into the final bit of news out of this, which is kind of the main event. And so the numbers, and as numbers goes, these are some quite cool numbers to cover. And so the Switch has now officially, in 10 months, outsold the Wii U in its lifetime sales. Worldwide, I should add.
Almost 15 million. And I know we really shouldn't be putting the barometer of success on the Wii U, but still, there were people who thought it would not reach this point, or it would still flop. But still, I think that's more of to looking back to like how depressing the Wii U era was in terms of sale and like in messaging and output of outside Nintendo software, and just to see this thing just continue selling like hotcakes like this, you're just like, this thing is just another hit, and it's a matter of like, can this sustain? Like, what's the numbers? 14.86 million. Wow, jeez.
Yeah, not even a full year yet. So yeah, I don't think like the story's not that it's necessarily overtaken the Wii U. Like, I think people assume that it's just the speed that it's done that in before it even hit 1 year. But I think what is another good thing to go through, I'm just trying to pull a full list here. It's just how many systems Nintendo sells in general of a generation. And obviously you get some standouts, like their highest selling system, the Nintendo DS, 154 million. But if we go to some of their more modest numbers, let's have a quick look. So obviously we just covered the Wii U, which had 13.56 million. The GameCube had 21.74 million.
See, that's the thing with the Switch right now. That's even, I feel like,
so it's not far off.
I think it's nipping at the heels of that one. I think that could easily possibly surpass that probably by before the end of this year.
Yeah, give it a few more months. I mean, we're talking lifetime sales of the GameCube here. Definitely not its worst selling system by any means. And then the Nintendo 64, 32 million. We're halfway there basically already on these lifetime sales.
I always forget
in perspective of how well the Switch is doing.
I always forget about that, how many that sold, like how many the 64 sold. But I think once you kind of split that up between regions, it kind of shows how, during that era, in the era of like cartridges versus CDs, and how Sony was able to take advantage of that market, and also, of course, a great games lineup too. And I mean, it's just, you definitely saw that how the tide turned.
Yeah. And so I guess the big thing, obviously, we could look at numbers, and just for the curious, the next one is a bit more of a bump, which is the Super Nintendo itself with 49.10 million. So a big jump, but not crazy numbers by any means from 15, especially with how long Super Nintendo was on the market. But I guess the important thing is, like, sure, we can look at this first year and try and do some sort of trend of where it will be in several years' time. But the real question will be, can Nintendo keep up the excitement and the buzz around the Switch? Like, yes, they've had a fantastic year. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that in terms of what games they released, how many of them, and how well they were received. But can they keep that pace up? It's not been proven yet. Like, what we know of the lineup to come, there's some good stuff coming. We don't know of anything of Odyssey or Breath of the Wild caliber, or even necessarily Xenoblade 2 sort of caliber, depending on what sort of audience you are. So, like, this E3 is going to be very telling of like what cards they actually are holding to their chest or not. But yeah, like, if they can just keep this rolling, it looks like the Switch is going to be, well, it's got potential, let's say, to be one of their best-selling systems.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if this news came out at the same time as their financial briefing, but they did say that recently that they do want to keep the Switch around as a generation longer than they traditionally do.
And I wouldn't blame them for that. I mean, it just we could definitely see different iterations of it. We could probably see almost like it won't be this year. I could probably, or maybe another year from now, whatever, when we see a different remodeled version of the Switch. And but one thing I want to talk about though, as far as the financial, like how much money that Nintendo made last year, I think that fiscal year. And I think I'm looking at this is that, and then again, this is for the first 9 months of the fiscal year. So, and it was like, in US dollars, it's like their net income profit was 1.79 billion. And assuming, so this was on sales of 857 billion yen, which translates to 7.8 billion, and basically an operating profit of 1.44 billion. So Nintendo is out of the red, it seems.
Yeah.
Or out of the black, whatever. I'm getting my things mixed up.
Yeah.
It
is strange when we're dealing with like numbers that big. I do struggle to kind of put that into context amongst other giant numbers. But it sounds all very impressive, Harris.
Yeah. Oh no. Do you mind if I read some of these off for you right now? I mean, it's just like it's Well, no. And aside from the Switch selling, aside from not so shockingly right now, the Switch selling higher than the Wii U's lifetime sales. You know, the 3DS family, like in the third quarter, sold 3 million, and that brings it up to just under 72 million worldwide, which is nice to see, knowing the rough start that handheld had at the first few months of its release. Now for the mini systems, they didn't provide any numbers, but they said they were a hit, and I think it shows that Reggie and all them kind of put their money where their mouth was, saying hey, these things are available. I mean, I did see some in the wild recently at a local Target, 7 of them. And of course, they were gone probably in about a few days, but still, it's getting to the point right now where it's not too overly difficult to find them. I mean, online, that's a little different knowing with bots, but still. And they said Amiibo sales are 9.3 million figures in the quarter. So, and this is the thing that really surprised me here on there was the software performance. And Super Mario Odyssey just killed it. And of course, I think we had to realize the fact that this was also bundled within the Switch, so this includes it as well. They sold 9 million copies. 9 million copies, and this was a game that was released in late October.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm kind of shocked that they actually sold more Odysseys than they did Breath of the Wild.
That is,
especially when you consider how long both games have been on the market.
Well, I mean, when you look as far as when you look at Mario, for instance, it's the flagship character, and yes, still people. I hate when people say Zelda's a niche series. You more can say Metroid's more of a niche series when you say that, whatever. And I don't see that in jest. That's just people know it, but they're not sure. But with Zelda, as far as casuals, people know what Zelda is. It's just Mario's more accessible across the entire realms of everybody in gaming.
Yeah, especially this Zelda, Breath of the Wild, that was it. You couldn't escape the press coverage of that at the time. With the perfect scores, the buzz around it, just the goodwill, the fact it released as a launch title, the fact it came out in March opposed to the end of the year like Mario did, the holiday season. I'm just talking about it's very impressive that Mario did as well as it did when Zelda had everything riding for it as well. It's just two impressive things happening at the same time there.
Oh yeah, and this goes without more. It really isn't. I'm going to be impressed how much that actually sells. But on the case of Breath of the Wild, that their sales numbers for this one was 6.78 million on Switch plus Wii U sales. They didn't reveal the Wii U sales numbers.
Yeah, and I think the Wii U. So I heard from a different source. I think it's about 1.5 million.
Yeah, so that's kind of close to what Twilight Princess was on the GameCube as well. But no, this one is close of surpassing both Twilight Princess and I think even Ocarina of Time. So that,
and this will keep selling.
Yeah, it will keep selling either way, regardless. Splatoon 2 though sold just about 5 million copies. So that's as someone pointed. yeah, as someone on the internet like had to kindly remind me, is like, so about 4 million then plus some from the Wii U era actually were transferred over to the Switch who played Splatoon. So I was like, yeah. Oh geez. No, I did read on here it said 8 other titles sold over 1 million copies. So that include Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It sold over 1 million copies since its December release date.
Yeah,
way to go.
Its December release date is the important part there as well. Well, I guess not the only important part. Like 1 million anyway is good for Xenoblade. I'm not sure. I could be wrong here if the others actually got sold over 1 million.
They did not. They did. I know X kind of came extremely close, but
yeah, I'm not sure about the worldwide sales of Xenoblade Chronicles as in the first one, but I'm not sure it did actually surpass 1 million. And obviously that was on sale for a lot longer than 2 has been so far. So this is all very encouraging, to say the least.
I know it's encouraging, but also just shows like, hey, you know, the era. Like, if you people want to put this games on this system right now, and I think like now with even JRPGs of this type, whatever. I mean, there's an audience, and they're selling well. They're selling, not game busters, but they're selling well. And I think, and ARMS was included in those million sellers, so that was good to see.
That is true. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So I think the moral of the story is if you publish it, they will come.
Yes, they will come.
The Switch.
Yeah, they will come if it's good published. I think the last thing I want to say on the 3DS side, what was it? Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. They shipped 7.17 million copies. So Pokemon, of course, no surprise, traded. Still selling strong. And when I was mentioning about the beginning of this whole segment, that people like to say how like they kind of like look through like read between the lines and see where about the release dates. Did you see basically what we saw for the release schedules for this year, though?
Yes, yeah, I've seen the schedule so far.
Yeah. Well, the ones that are notable on here are Fire Emblem, which has a date of 2018, Pokemon 2018 or later,
yep,
and Metroid Prime with a TBA to be announced. So I mean, that's no. I'm not holding my breath for Metroid Prime 4 to be released this year at all. And the same with Pokemon. I think everything eyes turned to Fire Emblem. I think that's the best shot to it.
It seems very weird technicality, legalese, why there's the phrase 2018 or later attached to the release date for Pokemon. I've never seen that before, especially in something like a financial report. A date or later as the wording.
Well,
that just confuses me.
Well, wait, the fact that it released both Pokemon and Fire Emblem at the same time? Or?
No, just the wording for the release date for Pokemon so far is 2018 or later. That's the wording or later attached to the end of that release date is like, surely you'd either reject it to be one or the other. I don't often see that phrase attached to the end. This is the date, but it might be later than that. It just seems a weird. Yeah, the date might slip.
No, yeah. Easily too, because like this was announced back at E3 2017. The reason why I say something like about how like Fire Emblem, I mean, we knew this was in development. I think was it back at that Fire Emblem Direct after the Switch presentation, and yeah, back in January 2017. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's more likely to see probably something happening. So.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely expect that to be released this year. I'm not sure what sort of month it's going to come out quite yet, but I think they're not too concerned as long as they get that out this year and it's what they want it to be. But yeah, no, I am looking forward to a new HD Fire Emblem game on the Switch. It's going to be good, especially with just how they've kind of ballooned in production values and such, yet they've kind of been restrained to kind of this. I mean, it sounds almost nasty to say now, but like there's almost retro technology of the 3DS with its like 200 pixels high screen, yet they're trying to push out these very nice animated anime cutscenes and such, which are clearly done in HD and then scaled down massively. Yeah, seeing them given that big budget, but on a system with a big horsepower and big screen behind it. Yeah, personally, very looking forward to that one.
Same here. I even and I hope they do take it into a new direction. But overall, though, from this financials, even though it's just numbers, sales, and slideshows, and some quick announcements of like movies and new mobile titles.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say Nintendo's in a good spot right now. I think though, and I even though we're a Nintendo podcast and bias out there, but would you say that we would have seen this probably a year ago this time after we'd seen the Switch reveal? Would you have been surprised by this?
Oh, like, would I have been expecting this before everything happened? No, I was expecting the Switch to be a system that I would enjoy. No real surprises there. But personally, I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be very successful. Because I didn't see why it would be more successful than the Wii U. Like, I didn't really see people would be attracted to, oh, it's a portable console hybrid. I didn't think that idea would be as popular as it has been. So yeah, I've been taken aback, obviously pleasantly. But no, I wasn't expecting this. How about yourself? Were you more optimistic than me? Were you thinking the Switch was going to sell as well as it did?
Well, I think my only thing was it's going to sell more than the Wii U. We obviously saw that, but a matter of like what it was going to be, just this continued sustained, just success and just all the momentum just kind of keeping going on. No, I didn't expect it. I figured that we'd get a few months of here and there, and then it would, when a bigger game release, it would just jump up again. But still, I'm happy. I'm happy for it, though, because that means ultimately a better ecosystem for games and hopefully a better ecosystem for Nintendo fans and also for new ones who want to buy this.
Definitely, yeah. Right? Yeah, like, it seems to be, Nintendo is also attacking all fronts. They're doing very well with their main console. As they announced during this, we got movies on the way, as we knew previously. There's theme parks on the way. The 3DS is still a thing. They're going more and more into smartphone games. I'm not sure if Labo counts as a different thing or not. But yeah, they seem to have a lot of things going on, and it seems to be a very positive buzz around most of it, which is, as a Nintendo fan, very peculiar and strange feeling. Because there's usually lots of doom and gloom around at least some parts of Nintendo, especially around the business of it. So this is good. So we go through the bad, obviously, as being Nintendo fans. Most of the time, I don't look forward to seeing what's going to come out of their financial meetings, especially the last few years in a row. But so it's good to have good news. And so I think that's a good way to end the feature. And so that also concludes, or starts to conclude this show, or the episode of this show. And so I did want to mention, if you are enjoying this show, please do check us out on. There's a couple of places. One is YouTube. We do these as videos if you're not watching it already, and they are live every week. But they also are archived. And so you can go back and you can watch various episodes. We've been doing them live or in video as well since episode 90, I believe. So there's quite a few of them to go through. So that's youtube.com/Nintendo Voice. Please do subscribe and like and share. It all genuinely really helps us. And the other one, which is also quite important to us, is Patreon.
Yes.
We have a Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Nintendo Voice. It's always a /Nintendo Voice, nice and consistent. And it's a simple pitch, which is essentially, if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, please do check it out, and donate would be fantastic. But as part of that, you can also submit your own super topics. And these are parts of the show where we do these big full features of a topic of choice by yourselves. And it can be something simple like a question we can answer, or it can be, much more of a dive into just a topic or a theme. And this can be something Nintendo or even non-Nintendo stuff. You just want to hear our opinions about certain things. So please do check both out. And before we go, like we usually do, we'll go around, we'll give our own contact details out if you want to get hold of us and anything else that we're up to. And so, Harrison, how can the fine podcast listeners and watchers get hold of you?
Here, well, my number is 31. No, no, seriously. If I get like, no, there's a radio station here in St. Louis that like you have to play like this. You have to answer like these very simple questions. It's like the idiot contest or something like that, and you win it. You get like concert tickets. But if you fail like a simple question, like say, oh, what's like the what's like the nickname of this state in the United States? If you get it wrong, you have to get out your phone number on air.
Ooh, that's going to backfire quickly. That one.
Yeah, but if you do want to reach for me and kind of harass me with my bad gaming takes or why I think there's too many Star Wars movies coming out right now, but I like Star Wars. But that was hot take. Oh, that was an out. The Game of Thrones people are doing Star Wars, a new trilogy of Star Wars, which is good. But part of me is like, when are they going to get a female director to do these right now? Because I feel like there needs to be more. I'm glad that there's diversity in Star Wars now more. I just feel like in the production side, they need to be more. But enough of that. Enough of that right now. We're here about games.
That's a good pitch. You were talking about if people want to get in contact with you. So if they liked that little preview,
yeah,
how can they get more of your thoughts and opinions about Star Wars and other Nintendo stuff?
You can reach me at my Twitter machine at Milfeld, and if you want to be friends with me on Switch, which I forget what the friend cap is on that thing right now because I don't want to get too an influx. I think it's 100.
I'm not sure actually. It was 100 on the Wii U. I'm not sure if they increased it.
Might have been. I don't know. I'll have to double check. But you can my friend Switch my Switch friend code is pinned to the top of my Twitter profile.
We love friend codes. Friend codes are the best.
Oh yeah, they are indeed.
Yeah, could we be in a world where we pay for an online service and still have friend codes? It could happen. It might not. Maybe there is a significant change and friend codes will disappear if you pay them a yearly fee. If you want to get hold of me, you can on Twitter, which is @Leuvision, LEUVSION. That's the best way to get contact with me. If you want to add me on Switch, I don't actually have it pinned. I did tweet about it at some point, but just let me know on Twitter, and I'll let you know. I'll post it again, and you can find me. Also, if you're on Twitter, you can interact with me. I guess is the best way on Nintendo's smartphone games. So if you play some Fire Emblem Heroes or anything else. On there, I guess Mitomo is still alive for a tiny little bit. Yeah, we can start on Twitter. Let me know what you play, and that will be good. Yeah, I don't have anything to plug myself, but please do check out the YouTube and the Patreon and all that wonderful goodness. And this is episode 126. So thanks once again for listening, and this has been Nintendo Voice.
See y'all later.
Catch you next time.